Hello and welcome back to our podcast once more. My name is Dr. Alison Chiwara. I'm the CEO and founder at Human Focus Limited, a company that is dedicated to creating happier and healthier workforces. Today, I want to talk about apologies, particularly poor apologies. What's worse, receiving no apology at all, or hearing an apology so hollow, so insincere, that it leaves you questioning the actual value of the gesture itself? Think about it. When was the last time somebody said something along the lines of, "I'm sorry you feel that way"? What did that do to you? Did it soothe your pain? Or did it ignite a deeper frustration within you? What did it do in that moment? Well, welcome to today's really episode where I'm going to take you to another level of just thinking aloud alongside me, please. We are going to look at and unravel, rather, shall I say, the tangled mess of poor apologies. Why they matter? Why are we even talking about them? And what I want to do is hopefully equip you to handle them with more grace and understanding. So let's begin here. Can you honestly apologize meaningfully if it's not resonating with the person receiving it? Can you say you have apologized if it does not resonate? Apologies do hold a mirror to our humanity. They actually reflect our ability to acknowledge harm, our ability to rebuild on our trust, but most importantly, to connect with others when we feel we've harmed them. Yet, when poorly executed, apologies do almost the opposite, and they often deepen the wounds that they are meant to close or heal. An amazing philosopher once said that what upsets people is not what happens, but the judgment about what happens. Is their judgment about what happens. So it's really important that as we look to figure out how we want to deliver apologies, is ask ourselves, does it resonate with the person to whom it's intended for? Apologies, when they lack sincerity or that sense of accountability, then just don't become words. It just, the whole thing fails. The whole relational framework fails. Neuroscientists emphasize that emotions are not just really feelings, but powerful drivers of our human decisions. So a poor apology, especially one that sort of says, "I dismiss your emotions," can sometimes trigger our brain's threat detection and leave us even feeling more unheard, feeling even more, if you like, invalidated and totally disconnected from that person in whom we want to receive that apology from. Have you ever noticed that poor apologies often fall in what I will frame rather as predictable patterns? So they sound something like along the lines of, "Oh, I'm sorry if I upset you." Really? Are we shifting the blame? "I didn't mean to hurt you." No, don't center intent over impart. Or even worse is, "Let's just move on." Completely dismissing resolution. Completely. Well, each of these, subtly invade accountability. But here's a real question. Are these apologies flowed because of ignorance? Or are they a way for the person who is apologizing to avoid vulnerability because maybe they want to be still in control? And I want to dig deeper and talk about why good apologies matter. Good apologies aren't just social niceties. Like I always say, I always like to reference this to how our brains work. So good apologies are actually very much, tied to our brain's way that it's wired up to look for those connections of do I belong? And neuroscience beautifully tells us that apologies, when they're done right, they actually activate, that hormone that I call the bonding hormone, oxytocin. Well, because what they do is they build trust and emotional repair. So, a Harvard psychologist, Dr. Daniel Goleman, he has work that is famously focused on emotional intelligence. And what he argues is that the ability to apologize is a sign of high emotional intelligence. Because what it does is it acknowledges both our shared humanity as well as our flaws. So a genuine apology has to demonstrate three things. So it has to show recognition of the harm that we've caused, the responsibility taken from one's actions, and thirdly, it has to repair or offer repair through meaningful action or change. So when one of these are missing, the apology rings hollow, it is empty. So is there recognition of the harm we've caused? Are we taking responsibility for our actions that have upset somebody? And what are we doing to meaningfully repair that action or change in the way that we engage with them going forward? So that's really, really something that we ought to look at. So like I said, if we just think of it, it's our ability to connect with others, to connect with their heart, their emotions, that allows us to offer really good apologies. Now, let me share an interesting story. A colleague once publicly criticized, this is from another company, nothing to do with me, but once they publicly criticized a teammate's idea during a meeting. So days later, they then went on to say, look, I'm sorry if you took my feedback the wrong way. When I look at it, it wasn't an apology, it was a deflection. So the recipient of the apology felt worse. Not only had their hurt been dismissed, but the blame had also been subtly shifted onto them. So I'm sorry if you took my feedback the wrong way. Now, let's just reword that. Now imagine if the colleague had said something along the lines of, I realize that my words were harsh and maybe dismissive. I really regret how I handled that. And I'd like to do more. It maybe be more constructive in the future. Now, what's changed here? Well, the focus shifted from self-preservation to I regret. I am taking accountability for how you felt in that moment. So it's genuine accountability in them. Now, how we then handle poor apologies also matters. So when you're faced with a poor apology, how do you respond? Are you to challenge it? Or do you just accept it begrudgingly anyway, or simply walk away? Well, there's many things that we can do for sure. You could consider pausing and reflecting. I love to do this a lot. So acknowledging your own feelings and actually thinking, does the apology actually address the harm? And sometimes also just clarifying your needs. So sometimes people offer apologies because they perhaps don't fully understand the impact of their actions. So say things like, I appreciate your attempt, but maybe I need you to acknowledge how this has affected me in A, B, C, D way. But also consider that not every apology warrants forgiveness sometimes, but every situation offers a choice though. So it offers a choice to repair the relationship, or you redefine the terms or let go altogether. So these steps to be taken, and perhaps some steps not to necessarily accept or take on board anyway, but certainly there are choices to be made. You know, the Aristotle once said that the antidote, of course, to pain lies in action. So an apology, when it's genuine, is actually an action itself. So it's a bridge from harm to healing. But when an apology falls short, it's just not about words that fail us. It's the missed opportunity for us to connect, to grow, and to understand and be more self-aware of ourselves. Now, what would the world look like if we all apologized with intention, at least with intention? How would your relationships transform if every apology that you gave or you received was a very genuine effort to repair? So here's the challenge I leave you. Think about the next time you hear or offer an apology. Do ask yourself, does this apology heal or harm? And if it's the latter, that it doesn't heal but harms, the question then becomes, what will you do to change that narrative? So, on that note, I'll leave you with this. Can forgiveness ever exist without a meaningful apology? Or is forgiveness the ultimate act of liberation? Do stay curious, but continue to stay kind. Until next time, keep thinking aloud and keep thinking about those meaningful apologies that aren't hollow but filled with emotional intelligence. From me to you, from human focused to your organization, it's goodbye for now. Until next time. Bye-bye.